Let's get the thoughts of Professor Michel Chossudovsky, who is the director at the Center for Research on Globalization, joining us from Montreal. Professor Chossudovsky, thanks so much for talking to us. We're looking at what the Chief Arab League monitor in Syria has said, and I quote, he has said, "Nothing frightening," and this was the first visit to the flashpoint city of Homs. Now, the remarks, his remarks has actually taken some of the Western countries and regional countries by surprise, to name France, who has said about the statements, his statements, to be premature. What do you think of this development and, of course, the reactions?
I think that General Dabi's statements confirm what many independent reports have been saying for months, in that the situation is one of an armed insurrection and foreign interference in the affairs of a sovereign state, namely Syria, and that the situation on the ground, which the mission has observed, does not correspond to what the media has been feeding us in the last few months. I'm talking about the Western media, largely based on information from the Syria Observatory in London, which we know is supported by the Western Military Alliance and which is in permanent liaison with the U.S. Foreign Office. I have been following the situation in Syria from the outset. I was in Syria in the month of February. I left in early March. And I can assure you that we are dealing with an armed insurrection, armed gunmen, supported by Turkey, supported by NATO, which have infiltrated the protest movement and which are in large part responsible for creating this crisis in Syria, all of which is there to justify a subsequent humanitarian intervention by NATO forces. Now, the reaction, the Arab League was sent in with the mission to actually support the Western Military Alliance. And it just so happens that their findings contradict their stated mission. So that up until now, the Arab League was supported by the U.S. State Department, and now they're saying no, because they have a different view, and because they're not towing the line on what the media has been telling us. They're now saying that General Dabi is not reliable, and in fact, a campaign is already underway to discredit General Dabi, who has, incidentally, the support of the Arab League.
Okay, so let's break this apart, what you said. When you talk about, first of all, the Arab League going there, in which their mission was to support what you said were these armed insurrections that are supported by Turkey, NATO, in terms of infiltrating the protests. So what's going to be the outcome now that they have come out contradicting that? I mean, what is going to be the reaction, I should say, by, for example, the U.S., by France, by NATO countries involved, including Turkey? I mean, are they going to continue with, as you said, infiltrating these protests? And, of course, the flow of arms is another thing that, in particular, Turkey has been accused of flowing through into Syria.
Well, you see, first of all, the foreign-based Syrian opposition groups initially supported the Arab League mission. And in fact, they were pushing for this Arab League mission. And now, because the Arab League mission, which with 150 observers and 20 people who are going to stay on, have come up with a much more sort of critical assessment of what's happening, they are now saying that they don't trust the Arab League mission, and they say that, quote, deeply critical of the mission, saying it will simply give al-Assad cover for his crackdown. Now, there's been a turnaround as far as the international community is concerned. First, they support the Arab League because they were expecting that the Arab League mission would parrot the official statements of Hillary Clinton, which are fabricated. now they're saying, oh, we have reservations concerning General Dabi because he's from Sudan. But of course, Sudan is a country which also is in defiance of U.S. foreign policy. I think what is important there is that we have a team of people there in the Arab League who are doing their job. I suspect that what France and the other Western powers will do is to try to discredit General Dabi, divide the team, publish reports of those which are pro-Western and denigrate the assessment which might come from a more, let's say, objective assessment of what's going on the ground in Syria.
Right, and quickly, if you can, Professor Chossudovsky, you talk about how there's going to be discredit attributed to Arab League's General Dabi in particular. But what about discrediting what you have said have been fabrications, for example, on the part of the U.S. and what you refer to as Secretary Clinton there? I mean, where does the discredit towards them? Why isn't that being highlighted, and that they can come out and, in the meantime, for example, discredit the Arab League once these results become more permanent in terms of the revelations?
Well, you know, what I found rather incredible, and I've been listening to the reports coming out on news here in North America, is that they've gone to arm's length to discredit the Arab League, which in effect was sent in by Washington. It wasn't the Arab League that decided on sending in that mission. Washington instructed the Arab League. First of all, they wanted to exclude Syria from the Arab League, which they pressured the Arab League to do. And now they have this Arab League mission, which they initiated. And now the Arab League has come out with contradictory statements, which in fact suggests that the Arab League, at least the head of the mission, is saying the truth. We've known for months and months that what has been described by the Western media is sheer fabrication. I started investigating the events in Dara in mid-March, and the first observation was, and this was based on Lebanese and Israeli news reports, is that the number of police who had been killed, I'm talking about the first days, the number of police who had been killed was greater than the number of so-called protesters. And they also acknowledged that there was an influx of Salafist and other terrorist groups supported by foreign powers into Syria, in Dara, which is a small border city close to the Jordanian border. And so then, subsequently, this whole process became, of course, much more serious, extending to other cities. But there is a foreign-supported insurrection inside Syria. I don't know what the Arab League, what its conclusions will be. I'm sure it will be pressured, heavily pressured by the major powers, the United States, France, Britain, to toe the line and present a report which goes against Syria rather than presenting a balanced assessment. So it's going to be very interesting in the weeks ahead to see how this mission actually proceeds. But I certainly think at this stage that this is in a sense positive, because it is an independent voice which is now saying no to the fabrications which have been upheld in the media, the unsubstantiated reports concerning casualties, but primarily concerning the actual causes of this crisis and the nature of foreign interference in the affairs of sovereign state, which is Syria.
Okay, it's been very enlightening. Thank you very much, Professor Michel Chossudovsky, Director of the Center for Research on Globalization. Many thanks for your statements there.